Do you ever wonder why the right wing aren't upfront with their migration statistics? Why are they always hiding the data? This week, the right wing burst a collective vein in their forehead when the Telegraph claimed that foreign criminals had committed 10,000 second offences without being deported.
Let's talk about those foreign criminals who don't get deported, even though I thought that was the law, that you got deported if you committed a crime in this country, you weren't a citizen of this country, but they are committing a whopping 10,000 offences in a single year. This is the latest Ministry of Justice data, revealing that a quarter of foreign criminals go on to re-offend in the UK after being released from jail while remaining in the country. Each of the 3,235 foreign offenders freed from jail accounted for 3 crimes on average, totalling more than 10,000 offences in the year to March 2022. That's the latest we've got the figures for. That's a rise of 25% on the previous year.
Julia Hartley-Brewer claimed that this data was taken from the Ministry of Justice, but when we looked at their latest published statistics, we couldn't find it. We then went to the Telegraph, but it was behind a paywall, so we tried the Express, GB News, Breitbart, but none of them seemed to provide the original source. Why might that be? Let's think about this. So here's a graph from the Daily Mail. The source shows that the reoffending rate of foreign criminals has actually fallen since 2019, despite a large increase in overall immigration. Of course, this is very inconvenient for their narrative about foreign criminals. However, there's also a bigger data flaw that's hidden from even the Daily Mail's recounting of this story. You see, this data was taken from a parliamentary question and answer session where Reform MP Rupert Lowe had requested the reoffending rate of foreign criminals for the last 5 years. He's been asking a lot of questions along these lines recently. Not that he has an agenda or anything when he's asking about foreign criminals. Obviously, I'm sure it's just a total coincidence. I'm sure he's concerned about a whole range of issues and hasn't just asked about 300, 400 questions about the same issue, immigration. So in response, Labour's Nicola Staken, since they're obligated to provide a response, released the data and said the proven reoffending rate for all adult offenders released from custody or starting a court order in the April 21st to March 22nd annual cohort was 32.5%. We refer all foreign national offenders in receipt of custodial sentence to the Home Office. Those sentenced to 12 months or more are automatically considered for deportation. So that's where Labour stands. The data revealed that the offending rate for these foreign criminals was 24%, which means they're significantly less likely than British nationals, on average, to reoffend. However, if you actually read the attached table, there's an interesting caveat that might explain why right-wingers are so keen to hide the data. Look at this. It says, nationality, it's note 2, nationality is based on self-declared single nationality. It does not take into account dual nationality. Therefore, individuals included within foreign nationals could also be British nationals. In other words, the data doesn't separate out dual nationals and foreign nationals, and it's entirely self-reported. So this data includes people who are British with dual nationality. If you are part Irish, like I am, and claim dual citizenship, and you steal a Mars bar, you're being included in this data if you reoffend. If you were born here, but one of your parents wasn't, and you have dual nationality, any crimes you commit could be included in this data, right? Are you a foreign criminal if you were born here? Well, according to this data set, according to Talk TV, according to the Daily Mail, according to the Express, GB News, yeah, you're a foreign criminal even if you were born here. Like, it's ridiculous. They've included dual nationals in the data concerning foreign criminals. They just haven't looked at it properly. No wonder they didn't want us having a closer look at it. But of course, that didn't stop Julia Hartley-Brewer and the Daily Mail painting a picture of scary people from Albania coming to terrorise your Britain through and through.
Let's talk about this with Tony Smith. He's the former head of the UK Border Force. Good afternoon to you. Hello, thanks so much for joining us. I mean, I think most people are just astounded that someone in this country, whether they've, had leave to be in this country or were here illegally, if you commit a crime, well then, frankly, we throw you out, don't we? Wouldn't I would expect that to happen to me if I committed a crime in any other country, that I would be removed from the country after I'd served my time in prison. But we don't deport these people. Why don't we?
I think what's happened, Julia, is that a number of people that are in prison, foreign national offenders, they're recommended for deportation by the courts. They serve their sentence, and then when it gets close to early release date, EDR, they refer to the Home Office for deportation. That's when the applications start arriving in on your desk, and this will be an application. This person cannot be actually deported. You can't do that because of a reason or another. The two main reasons are Article 8.
I was just say it's going to be Article 8, isn't it?
The Article 8, which is a right to family life, is that if you've been here for a while, whether it's legally or illegally, if you've struck up some kind of a family relationship, then that should arguably give you a right to stay in the country. Or Article 3, in that if you were to deport this person, then they would suffer inhuman or degrading treatment when they got back home again for one reason.
They should have thought of that before they committed the crime. I mean, we're not talking about parking tickets here. We're talking often about, but people who've, gone to jail. And as we know, unless maybe they've written a hurty tweet, they probably had to commit quite a lot of offences. And the fact they go on to commit, a number of offences afterwards suggests they're probably, persistent criminals. But even the Article 8 right to a family life, I've never understood. You have a right to a family life, that's fine. But you don't have a right to a family life when you're behind bars. So why don't we have an issue with separating families then? But also, you can continue your family life with your wife, girlfriend, mother, child, whatever it is, but you have to do it in your home country because we don't want you here anymore. Why on earth is that a contradiction?
Probably because a lot of the people you're talking about are British, Julia. Like, this is what happens when you make wild assumptions based off of bad data that you haven't looked at properly. But did you notice how they instantly turned it around to try to blame human rights, right? We know why this data set is so large now. It's because they're including British citizens in the data set. Like, it's not just foreign nationals, it's British citizens as well. So why are they turning it to human rights? Here's a bad data set which includes British nationals and calls them foreigners, and this number is so big because of those pesky human rights lawyers. Samuel, why are Talk TV so keen to turn this conversation into a conversation about human rights and why they're bad and causing us loads of problems? What do they gain?
Well, because they're fascists, right? Let's be real. I'm so tired of pussyfooting around these ghouls and terrible people. This is what we're going to be dealing with, especially in 2025. I think as leftists on the left, we really need to have a conversation about how are we going to deal with the onslaught of just fake news. There was a time, maybe 3 to 4 years ago, where we maybe reached a peak of debating between the left and right, and it would be actually the impetus would be that you brought real facts to the debate. You couldn't just be like, nowadays, as we've seen, because of the rise of Trump and his re-election, I think that a lot of the right in this country will feel, well, why do we need to stick to the facts? What purpose does that serve? We've just seen this guy who said Haitian immigrants are eating cats and dogs, and he's got elected. So why do I? So you're telling me that dual nationality, foreign? That's the starting point position that these people are starting with, because facts don't matter to them. It's all projection. It's all lies. And I think that, like we say, I think we on the left have to have a discussion in 2025 to note how we're going to deal with it, because people like Julia Hartley-Brewer are going to continue spewing the lies. People like Lawrence Fox. And another component of this, another reason why I feel that they feel they can do all these lies without being checked, is because of the prominence of X and Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, boosting these people. Yes, concerning, totally agree. Under each and every of these Nazi posts. So I think in 2025 we're going to see a lot. We're going to see that on steroid. We're going to see more and more of these lies, and I think that one of the things that I've been discussing with some friends and stuff and really want to talk about next year is that on the left, I feel the vacuum obviously is with Starmer. He's not on the left and he's not advocating for our needs. But one of the things that right does effectively is talk about immigrants, and they demonize immigrants over and over again. They've got their messaging locked in. And I was saying to a friend the other day, is it any surprise that we see reform surging? Where's the left narrative? What are we saying? When we talk, reform surging, no one can stop the surge. It's amazing. And it's like, well, are we surprised that these people are surging when you have a lack of rebuttals to all these? And look, people go on GB News and they might have rebuttal from the left wing, but we don't necessarily have the same intensity. For example, imagine if the left, I've tweeted about this, imagine if the left went as hard against billionaires as the right does against immigrants. I mean, would that not be justified? And I think more people are waking up, especially since the re-election of Donald Trump and the connection with how much Elon Musk and the top richest 20 families in America spent on that election. I think we're seeing the influence that billionaires have in our society is very corrosive. So I would much rather have a party and a platform of going after these like Bernie Sanders did, than going up against going up and saying that immigrants are the problem when they're not.
Calling out Keir Starmer, like, it needs to be done, unfortunately. We didn't have to fight with people who are supposed to be kind of on the liberal left side. But at the moment, Keir Starmer's entire messaging is basically, reform is correct about everything. Please vote for Labour instead. And it's like, can you not see how that will not lead to the things that you want? It really won't.
Cog, it's just. I'm so sorry to cut you off, but I just want to quickly say that that is so spot on, and it's really infuriating and worrying to me. You, not least because we actually have information that part of Keir Starmer's team went to the States to help and consult with Kamala Harris on their on their election. So let's see how that went. I know, but it really does bother me. Like we saw with Joe Biden, the increased child tax credits that he put through, that came through when he first started his presidency. The moment that they went through it, when his approval ratings was hovering around 54-55%. It was really good for a while. The moment December, when the child tax credits started to wind down, for those of you who don't know, as part of his Build Back Better plan, Joe Biden initially increased the amount that parents get for their child in terms of like support and support allowance for living and stuff. Joe Biden wound that down around December, and his approval ratings started to dip and dip and dip. And what we saw is that approval rating never recovered. And the reason why it never recovered is because he didn't fight for the progressive policies that he actually campaigned on. There were some rumblings of maybe a quarter of student debt, a cancellation here, or maybe another cancellation of student debt there, but it was never substantive. And this is what the point we're trying to connect with Keir Starmer is that we've just seen what happened in the States, like you said, Cog. We've seen the failure of establishment corporate Democrats to meet the moment and buck the anti-incumbency trend. We're going to see exactly the same thing times 10 if Labour doesn't get its act together. And honestly, the only way I see Labour as a vehicle for change is if Starmer is gone. Because what I think is that there are centrist Labour figures out there who are more amenable, right? They can be, maybe they're not going to be, Lenin, okay? But these people, they're more amenable to what the left has. And I just think back to what Starmer has done in terms of the purges of the left. It's a concentrated effort to say, I do not like you left-wing people, and I do not want to attach myself to your policy agenda. So if there's a way to get rid of him and before the next election with that, but outside of that, I don't know what could be done with Labour.
One of the major things is to understand that the right wing operates on vibes, right?
Yes.
They don't operate on statistics, facts, and but to be fair, that's not unique to the right wing. Lots of lefties gained their beliefs because somebody who they admired had the right vibes, and then they sort of adopted those beliefs as a result. It's just more persuasive because you've got the kind of data to back it up, and when you do more reading, you kind of tend to trend towards the left or liberal side. Even if you're not a full leftist, you tend to be more liberal if you've done more reading on a subject because it's so much more substantive. Mm-hmm. The thing is, the right is all vibes, right? Mm-hmm. Donald Trump, when he sent out his stimulus checks, in contrast to Joe Biden, he delayed having them sent out so that he could put his signature on them.
That's right.
Right? So the left needs to start having big vibes when it comes to the things that the left are doing. Big vibes is going to be the aim of the game. It's going to be about the aesthetic. And one of the things that we're going to have to do is start mocking the right for whining about immigration. We need to start actively mocking them when they bring out these bullshit statistics, going after them, because it's entertaining as well. Mm-hmm. And entertaining is useful because entertaining you can use to get people on board. That's, I think, what we need to be doing.
Support independent media. Support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you. Turn left.